Okay, brothers and sisters, this is another lovely scenario we're going to work through. This is the 4.2 assessment for Peter's Pizza Restaurant. Continuation of the pizza theme. All right. Now, this one, if you set it up right, a few little tweaks here and there, and it'll come together just fine, right? So let's do a little setup first. You got all these blank spaces. You're supposed to do something with it, right? Let's ignore the blank spaces for now, and let's do some of the calculations just to get them set up. So total sales, right, is going to be equal volume times price. Okay, that's pretty easy. Yeah. Now your gross margin dollars, that's going to be pretty straightforward on this one because we're not changing any of the cost of goods sold, right? We're only changing the volume, right? Price points, volume decreases, volume, no change in pricing. So that's all good. Okay. Which in fact means that, I mean, we are changing price, the new price. We are changing the price, so our margins might change a wee bit. But current price, current COGS, new price right there, right? So that new price is actually going to be right here. So let's go ahead and just fill that in. New price is going to be this right there. So we got this set up. F2, Control Enter, gives me that. In fact, if I do this, F2, Control Enter, it does that too. Now the margin is going to be, we're not changing the actual cost of goods. We're only changing price. So price minus cost of goods is giving us margin. Now this is the current margin, which we're not going to use because it's all changes in price. This is just where they're at now. So let's do the difference between these two, right? The margin here times the volume. Gross margin times the volume. Yep, let's do that. Okay, so we're going to take the margin, whatever that price is going to be. So it's new price minus the cost of goods, because that's staying the same, right? That gives us that. And we're going to times it by our volume. Now, because we want everything shifting downward as I do this, and we want to keep these fixed and this variable and this shifting along with the formula, I'm going to make these fixed. So F4 and F4. And by the way, I just in my own, I know math sometimes it eludes me. So I make sure I put the parentheses around the things I needed to calculate first and then what to do after. Okay, so 8 price minus 14 COGS gives me the gross margin per unit, and I'm going to times it by the number of units that we have here. Okay, now let me just, let's just do that. Okay, now we're going to do same thing, F2, Control Enter, and voila, we have that all done. Now, if we look at this, it should have kept this the same, but then moved the the index, if you will, or the cell down to the next one. And same with this one. If I do F2, I see it kept these fixed and this moved with the formula being copied down. Now all I got to do is margin percent is the gross margin divided by the total sales. Okay. Now I should probably do an equal sign. People probably wonder why am I doing that? Because that's just easier. The button on my keyboard is a little bit bigger. So I always do equals first before Actually, equals is just as big. I don't know why I do that, but that's okay. Okay, so Control F2, Control Enter, and voila. Now I've got all those formulas there. Now, arguably, and I won't do this, you're gonna have to do this yourself. You can take all of this, including that, well, B8. Actually, I got this wrong. I didn't want to do that. Price. B8, I wanted to fix as well. So let's do F4, which fixes it. And then let's do my little F2, Control Enter, and now I should have B8 all the way down. B8, B8, B8. Okay. Now you can take all this and you can copy it down to these others. I'll just show you how to do that, and then you'll have to do this for volume 3. Control C, or you can do your, copy, and then come down here, and you can just do Control V, or you can do paste. Now, I don't want to do paste because then it changes the colors. I want to do paste formulas because then it keeps the colors, all the formatting, but it just pastes in the formulas. Okay. So now if I double check that, F2 gives me the new price, right? All that is new price. And this F2 gives me just volume times price. And margin is the same thing, margin times volume. And this should be the same, sales margin divided by sales. Okay, so we got that. Now you have to do the same thing down here. All right. So we've got all these set up theoretically, right? All set up to run their totals. Now we just got to figure out volume. Now you're wondering, Brother Lewis, why aren't you getting to this yet? Because I want to set things up so that once I get to that point, it's just all done. I'm a little backwards. Okay. So volume, same volume. Well, this is easy. So let's just do equals that. Okay. Select all those things, hit F2, Control Enter, and voila. I've got all of those volumes done. That's the easy part. Now, the harder part maybe is the volume decreases by 15%. Now, a lot of people, they will code this into their formula. I don't like to hard code any numbers into a formula. I like to make them references to a cell that I can change at will. So, and this spreadsheet doesn't really lend itself to that very much, but I'm going to make it lend itself to that. And I'm going to change, I'm going to put, see, decreases by 15% and decreases by 25%. So in one cell, I'm just going to put minus 0.15. Okay. And I would do that same down here, minus 0.25. Now there's a reason for that, because when I copy the formula from here down to here, and if I do the references right, it'll do it. I won't have to, change anything because it's in the same relative location to the overall table as this one is. So when I copy this formula down to here, then all's good, right? So now the question is volume decreases. So if I take, oh, well, this is going to be a little tricky because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can't take a fraction of a volume of 1 as your daily volume. So you're going to have to keep that the same. So arguably, some people would just put in that. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to create a formula that will tell somebody else what I was thinking. So I'm going to say the minimum is equals the min of, say, this number, and that's F4. And let's see, let's do this times 1 plus this number, so that I could do increases or decreases, right? A plus, a negative to a plus is a negative, so this would automatically decrease it, times D16, and that should be it. E12 times 1 plus D16. Okay, now I hit enter, And it didn't do that, did it? Oh, that's because D16. Oh my gosh. Well, let's just do this. No, you know what? I have to think about this a little bit. If I got less than one, I don't want to do a max because the max would then be always, oh, I could do the max. No, yeah, I could do the max of, and that way it's either one or, yep, here we go. This is why we do that. Now we got a number that's correct. Okay. Now let's double check that. So I selected the other two cells. I hit F2. I hit Control Enter. And what do I got? Oh, I got a problem. Okay, what's my problem? My problem is, oh, look at that. I screwed up. It's referencing a text. That's because I didn't I didn't pin one of the references. So let's go back up here. F2, which reference do I need to pin? I need to fix is this D16. So let's hit F4 and that gives me a D16. Now, obviously you can put, dollar signs in front of D and dollar signs in front of 16, and that would do the same thing, but I'm a keyboard slash whatever person. So now I got that. Let's do F2, Control Enter, and whoa, let's double check that. Now let's double check our math, because sometimes we don't know if we did it right. So let's say 240 times 0.85, right? Because 15% less than the other would be 0.85. That's 204. And let's just double check the other one, 4,800 times 0.85 gives me 4,080. So I know that I'm good there. All right. So now this whole thing will run based on what I put in here, 15%. And in fact, I don't have to have a separate table. If I could just have a singular table, 0.25, it does the same thing. Hey, gotta love that. Now, if I increase it, if it's let's say it's a 10% increase, oops, 0.1, then I should get volume. Now, if I were really doing this in the long term, I'd do some rounding, right? I would say round whatever, and then it would be that. But I don't have to worry about that on this assignment, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Minus, well, oops, sorry about that. I accidentally locked myself. Minus 0.15. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so if I were being a little bit more clever, I would actually do a rounding on this, and I would do it to 0, right? That's what I would do in the long run. So I'd always got a number, not a fraction of a number. And we can see that when I do this, I do, let's say, the 10% increase. Let's do this again, 0.1. Then it would always give me a rounded number to 0. But 0.15 minus 0.15, voila, there we go. Now you can, and I'm not going to do the rest of this. You can copy this. I'm just going to show you for grins. I can copy this. I think, let's double check. Did I do this as a hard reference? E. See, I want to make it up to here. And same with this one. I want to make it on the original, not on the scenario 1. That would be bad. And I want to fix it. So I want to fix it because it's against the original, right? Oops. F4. Okay. Now I should be fine if I copy and paste. These are fixed. This is D16. Oh, D16. Well, that's interesting. It's not going to work to copy and paste it down because I'm going all the way down, but I don't want it to go down for some things. Well. Okay, this one's not going to work so good, but I'll just keep it like that. I'll just do this F2, Control Enter. Whoops, why did it do that? Oh, because I need to do this. See, you're going to have to redo this formula because it's not going to copy and paste down very easily because we're basing it on the original. So let's put that back to F4. Let's take it F4 all the way back to its original, just variable reference and our floating reference. And that gives you that. Now we can take this formula and copy it down, but we're going to have to monkey with it just a little bit so that we can keep the base references. Oh, we didn't have to monkey with it at all. But that's only because it went down here and it had the original. I really don't want it to have the original. I want it to have what's up here. So that's my monkeying around, and I want to make sure that this comes down here. Okay. So now that I've done that, my formula down here is working. F2, Control Enter, and voila, I should be having the right numbers. Okay. But I'm going to take that out, and you'll have to work with it yourself. Okay. So now, the last point of this is what is the new cost of goods, and what is the new price, really? Well, there is no new cost of goods, so let's just equals this, right? And now the new price. What is the new price? Now that is the question of the day. What is the new price? How do you figure out a price by only having a cost of goods and understanding that it needs to have a target gross margin of 67%? Now, some people would think this is impossible. How do I do this? Well, we know what the formula is, right? We know that COGS, I'll just write this out here, COGS, no, let's see, gross margin equals sales minus COGS, right? And gross margin percent equals gross margin divided by gross margin divided by, I don't know, COGS, you know, gross margin divided by sales. So then we want, if we have the gross margin percent and we have the gross margin, we want to solve for sales, right? So write this down again. So if we're solving for sales, then we want the cost, the gross margin. We're going to move gross margin. We're going to move sales over here, right? So equal gross margin. So essentially, gross margin. Well, we want sales. We want to solve for sales. So we want, if we times this by sales over 1, that gets rid of this, and sales, this GM times sales over 1 will give us gross margin divided by, moving things around a little bit, gross margin divided by 1 minus gross margin percent. Let me just double check that. Sales or price. Well, we'll do price equals. Gotta remember this. Sales is a volume in this case. So we moved price over here. I mean, gross margin over here. So we got price equals gross margin divided by 1 minus gross margin percent. Let's double check that. Equals gross margin divided by 1 minus the percent. It's going to 1594. So let's double check that. So let's just for grins equals 1594 right here, right? Our cost of goods sold is this. Our current gross margin now is this minus that. And let's do the percent equals that divided by that 7%. There we go. We got it right. Now, of course, I didn't do this on a chalkboard and walk you through the math of fractions, which is always a great joy, but we got it all right here. So gross margin equals price minus COGS, right? Gross margin percent equals gross margin divided by price. And then price equals the gross margin divided by 1 minus the gross margin percent. Okay. So there you go. There you have it. Now with that, then you can calculate all this other stuff. So hopefully I've given you enough to chew on for this one. Hope you have a great time. Bye.